A man awakens in a strange forest, completely lost. Stumbling through the undergrowth, he trips on a gnarled root. Crashing to the ground, he looks up in pain and drags himself to the edge of a clear stream, where his reflection confirms a dreadful suspicion. A sound startles him as a strange creature appears. He recognizes the majestic, flower-adorned stag instantly. This creature, the landscape, he knows this place, and a sudden beam of light confirms his impossible theory. As out of the light, a fairy emerges to welcome the new player. This man stares at the tiny guide, his suspicions now a reality, for he has been transported into the world of the game. Last, this world's top survival game forcing players to fight monsters, a system praised for its freedom and complex mechanics. This very game he spent countless hours mastering. A lone developer types furiously, aiming for perfection, surrounded by screens as he works deep into the night. His focus absolute, a single drop of sweat on his face. And with one final keystroke, the code is complete, revealing his name as the sole creator, Kamiya Saoshi. He leans back, utterly exhausted but finally finished, having reached a major milestone for his game's latest version, an update that will finally unlock the season's ending, and he sends out the notification for the product launch. But Mai is already planning the next season's content. His mind overflowing with ideas after years of work. Still, he wonders if his creation is truly complete, when a voice from behind suddenly calls out his name, revealing the business manager Anohara has arrived, who praises Kamiya for developing nearly everything himself. This producer Mime claims creating the game was impossible alone, crediting his support for bringing the creator's vision to life. Their partnership, he recalls, started back in high school, where Anohara even sacrificed college to become his benefactor. Now he is obsessed with its success, citing a near-perfect user score, but dismisses the idea of achieving a perfect 100 as impossible. While the creator, Kamiya, gleams with a chilling perfectionist drive, a tired sigh from Anohara suggests this is not a new argument, so he changes the subject, congratulating him on the release, then asks about some documents he left for him to sign. And Kamiya trusts him completely with the paperwork. A trust Anohara seems to relish with a wicked grin, just as he turns to meet with a group of suited men, bidding a final ominous farewell to his old friend. Because with the company signed over, Kamiya is no longer needed. This game developer sits in his control room, utterly confused, when suddenly men in suits appear to mock his ignorance, revealing their leader stole all the rights to his game. But the developer argues he is essential for future updates, only to be told the game is now considered complete, and from a business standpoint he is no longer needed. Enraged, he lunges forward, but a bodyguard slams him down, pinning him painfully to the cold, hard floor. This leader smirks, having anticipated this exact reaction, calling the developer's passion for the game an obsession, a problem that prevented them from maximizing profits. And now, without him, they can finally cash in. Helpless on the ground, he asks why they could not just talk, but the leader's cold gaze offers no sympathy, simply stating he would not have listened anyway. This bodyguard's hand crushes him to the floor, utterly helpless. With all authority lost, Anohara coldly orders him out. Even his attempt to sue proved hopeless from the start, as Anohara masterfully turned public opinion against him, fueling a deep, impotent rage within Kamiya. He now fears for the future of his creation last, and desperately returns to his computer, seeking an opening, scrolling through contacts for any possible ally. Suddenly, a message appears from Anohara himself, containing a chilling invitation to stay in the game forever. Kamiya stares, completely baffled by the cryptic threat, but before he can react, a blinding light erupts from the screen, pulling him from his room into a cascade of data, until he materializes back in the game's familiar forest. His guide then welcomes him with the simple rules of survival. Every monster in this world is now his enemy, and his clothes confirm a terrible truth. He is a basic trial character with minimum stats, a build destined to die in the first monster raid. Just then, his fairy guide announces the game's start. A cold sweat breaks as the reality sets in, knowing he is fated to die in tonight's raid. This little guide just winks, eager to begin, prompting him for a name as a system window appears. It is the familiar screen for character creation. Staring at the interface, Kamiya accepts his fate, when suddenly an idea sparks in his mind. He enters a hidden code only he would know, stunning his little guide into disbelief. As the world glitches and the command activates, this fairy realizes he knows developer mode, her eyes wide with shock. He introduces himself as Kamiya Saoshi, the creator of Last, and the tiny guide Leafy excitedly confirms her own name. A system window details her role as a forest protector, confirming this is indeed the world he painstakingly built. Kamiya immediately requests the game's meta information, which Leafy can access now that he is in developer mode. This credits role, listing his name for everything except one role, a game master named Anohara Wataru, a name he does not recognize, until the face of his betrayer flashes in his mind. He connects Anohara to his sudden arrival in this world. And though the reason is a mystery, he refuses to die here, vowing to survive and reclaim his creation from that traitor. His newfound resolve earns him Leafy's unwavering loyalty, as a nearby building glows with the promise of a new beginning. Kamiya teleports to the starting base, a strange sensation washing over him, arriving at a simple level 1 shack. This fairy apologizes, but he explains this is all part of his developer mode. Inside the shack, a glowing blue crystal awaits him, and he steps forward to inspect the core of his base. This Archenite ore is the key to crafting items and weapons, but his guide is stunned when he insists on starting the tutorial, knowing it is the only safe time to gather materials without monster spawns, a crucial advantage since his character is designed to die on night 1. So with no time to waste, he prepares to begin, initiating the tutorial sequence immediately. He moves with expert speed, knowing every resource location by heart. While his fairy guide watches from the roof as dusk approaches, greeting him upon his return impressed by his efficiency. Shocked he has already gathered enough to craft before nightfall, Kamiya smirks, explaining he designed this to be possible, but Leafy is stunned since no player has ever succeeded before. With a flash, the system announces the crafting sequence has begun, placing him before the glowing ore ready to work. His interface shows a wooden sword, a basic starting weapon, followed by a small wooden barricade for defense. Still, this meager equipment offers little comfort, knowing he designed this trial character to fail. A blood-red moon rises, signaling the quest to survive the night, so Leafy can only wish her creator good luck. Outside, the first monster already lurks in the trees, revealing itself as a strange, deer-like creature, which he dispatches with a single, efficient strike. Suddenly, a goblin appears, a low-level but aggressive foe, forcing Kamiya to prepare for the next wave of the assault. His stats are abysmal, a level 1 character with no skills, and the first monster, a goblin, immediately lunges to attack, but Kamiya dodges with impossible precision. Knowing every single one of its attack patterns by heart, this goblin unleashes a furious combo of strikes, yet his counterattack is easily blocked, leaving him wounded, his body unable to keep up. His speed is simply too low to evade the next hit. While his strength proves completely insufficient, this creature's brute force sends him flying backwards, spitting blood from the sheer impact of the blow. He crashes to the ground, completely disarmed, feeling the shocking, undeniable reality of the pain, but a fire ignites in his eyes, refusing to be beat, and he rises again, determined to survive his own creation. A goblin chases him through the dark night. His stats are too weak for a direct fight, so he springs a digital trap he prepared earlier, catching the monster completely off guard. Kamiya uses his full body weight for the final strike, driving the blade deep into its skull. This first kill leaving him breathless but alive, staring down at the defeated creature. A quest completion window confirms his victory. This blood-red moon hangs in the sky, signaling the end of his first brutal night. Kamiya knows surviving this world is nearly impossible, but vows to crawl from the abyss and take everything back. With the dawn comes a moment of peace, and inside he feels the chillingly real texture of the ore. Leafy greets him, but Kamiya says the tutorial gathering is done, declaring he will now focus on crafting to meet someone important, and he recalls the game's basic mechanics for gathering materials. All collected items are converted by the magic stone into 3 resources. This first is mana, the life energy for magic and training, while the second element is needed for physical production, and the third is gold, a currency for purchasing rare items. With this knowledge, he places his hand on the Archenite ore, activating the generation menu to begin crafting his defenses. His options are limited to basic items due to his weak stats, making him realize he needs allies to survive the 7th day. Leafy panics at the mention of the dreaded stampede, a mass monster outbreak far deadlier than the nightly raids. An event calibrated to challenge even max-level players, making it theoretically impossible for a trial character to survive. Leafy insists that even for him the stampede is certain death. Kamiya asks about dying, learning the consequences are permanent. In a burst of loyalty, she vows to help him survive. System restrictions bar her from combat, however, so she will dedicate herself to gathering vital information. Her fierce determination seems to move him, and he thanks her, counting on her support. She refuses to use his name, insisting on Creator, a devotion he accepts with a knowing smile. Back outside, Kamiya begins constructing his defenses, selecting a simple watchtower from the build menu. A torrent of blue data forms the structure before him, though placing it manually is a low-level inconvenience. From their new vantage point, the vast world unfolds, leaving Leafy in awe of the world her creator made. His eyes narrow, knowing this world is truly alive, and as dusk falls, the second night's quest begins. Leafy spots the approaching monsters, her voice filled with dread. Kamiya immediately grabs the bow he crafted for this moment, but 2 goblin-like creatures emerge from the woods. Taking aim from the watchtower, he decides to strike first, though his low stats make drawing the bow a struggle. Accepting his own harsh game design, he lets the arrow fly, only for it to narrowly miss the lead monster. Leafy reminds him his accuracy is also unassisted, so he quickly knocks another arrow undeterred. His first shot unexpectedly fells the monster in the back, and with renewed confidence he takes aim for the last one. This final arrow strikes true, hitting its mark dead center, prompting him to leap from the tower to finish the job. Yesterday's fight taught him a valuable lesson. Even with weak stats, he can win by predicting every move. And with a bow, accuracy is paramount. He gets enclosed for a guaranteed point-blank shot, unleashing an arrow that ends the goblin instantly, but another monster immediately takes its place, falling to a perfectly aimed arrow in the back. A third one lunges, grabbing his bow in a desperate attack, so Kamiya uses the weapon itself to finish it off. This system announces his quest is cleared, he survived another night. Leafy rushes to congratulate her creator on his victory, leaving him standing alone among the fallen creatures. From the shadows, a mysterious archer watches him intently, and with the new day, Kamiya is already back to work, recovering his arrows because he cannot afford to waste a single resource. Kamiya checks his arrow count, realizing one is missing. A recruitment quest for the missing arrow suddenly triggers, leading them to a trail of footprints in the woods. Leafy warns him to be careful, though she is immune to game dangers. So he follows the tracks deeper into the forest alone. He recalls the system for recruiting NPCs as allies, each with unique skills essential for victory. With his life on the line, Kamiya knows he needs help. When Leafy spots their target just ahead, a red-haired hunter inspecting a simple rope snare. In a flash, the trap violently springs shut, yanking the unsuspecting girl into the air by her ankle. Dangling helplessly, she is caught in his trap. Introducing Anemone, the hunter girl, completely ensnared. As she tries to cut the rope, a log trap swings right for her head. Kamiya quickly tries to de-escalate the situation, but the hunter girl instantly cuts herself free, vanishing into the forest before he can say another word. Stunned by her speed, he is left completely alone. As Leafy explains, the game's scenarios no longer run automatically. Now he must persuade NPCs through actual dialogue. Knowing one wrong move could make her a permanent enemy. Returning to his base, the gathering quest is marked complete, and he confirms to Leafy that he has the resources he needs. It is time to put his new plan into motion immediately, a strategy based on the very character settings he designed. He recalls her backstory as a solitary hunter isolated since her father's death, hoping to offer her a richer life among others. Yet even he admits nothing is certain outside the game's script. With his plan set, he activates the magic stone to begin crafting. Kamiya uses the crafting system to prepare a meal, cooking an elaborate dish over an open fire, a manual task he finds surprisingly enjoyable. Leafy is impressed by his skill, which he attributes to living alone, and a memory of a friend surfaces before he pushes it away, dismissing his past as ancient history. Their quiet moment is shattered as Anemone draws her bow, forcing Kamiya to quickly de-escalate the situation. And she confirms she is traveling completely alone. This hunter asks where they are, admitting she is lost, but Kamiya cannot help, being new to the area himself. Her suspicion remaining high, her arrow still aimed at him, so he tries a different approach, offering her some food, assuring her it is safe and simply too much for him to eat alone, and his simple act of kindness finally lowers her guard. Anemone offers him a freshly cooked steak, and she begins to eat while he watches over her. Her eyes widening at the incredible taste, she quickly devours the entire meal, leaving the plate completely empty in seconds. Impressed, the hunter asks if he can make more, but Kamiya says he will need something in return, prompting her to ask what he wants from her. He explains this dangerous area requires combat power, stating the simple rule is to hunt or be hunted. A quest update confirms his goal, fight with her to survive, and just then, glowing eyes appear in the darkness. 3 massive monsters step out from the trees, but Kamiya knows the threat is even bigger, revealing a whole horde hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, a horde of monsters swarms them. Kamiya summons a sword, calling for backup, leaving Anemone stunned by his storage magic. He dives into the fray, clashing with multiple beasts at once. While she worries about their overwhelming numbers, Kamiya expertly dispatches the first creature, as Anemone's arrow finds its mark in another's skull. She realizes he is perfectly tracking her line of fire, creating an opening for her next shot. An arrow pierces its head, a perfectly timed assist, but another beast tackles him to the ground, pinning him down with overwhelming force. He uses the monster's own momentum against it, sending the creature flying with a powerful throw. As the hunter watches his combat prowess ready to strike again, this horde closes in from all sides, a wave of snarling, red-eyed beasts. Anemone finds herself quickly overwhelmed, her bow useless at such close range. With no other choice, she draws a knife, parrying 2 creatures in a desperate block. Kamiya shouts a new strategy, fall back to the shed. Luring one of the monsters right into his path, she watches as it steps on something hidden, while using her incredible agility to fend off another, and the creature's foot presses down, triggering the mechanism. It is sent flying helplessly into the air. Before being impaled on a brutal spike trap, this plan worked perfectly just as Kamiya intended, revealing his strategy was more than just fighting head-on. Anemone leaps at a beast with twin daggers, while Kamiya struggles against another with a heavy club, finding himself pinned by a goblin swinging for the kill. An arrow suddenly pierces the creature's head, saving him, his eyes widening at the perfectly timed assist. Anemone stands over the fallen monster, her bow still raised. With the horde defeated, a system message declares the quest cleared, and back at base, Anemone watches him use the magic stone, questioning if he is truly a magic stone contractor. Kamiya asks her to join him, admitting he needs allies to survive, making her wonder if fate brought her to this place. He praises her impressive combat skills, offering his hand, and she accepts, officially joining his party. This next morning, he is already preparing their breakfast, confirming to Leafy that the meal is ready to go. This next morning, Kamiya is caught completely off guard, as Anemone stretches casually after waking up. He wonders if her isolated life made her so oblivious, quickly turning away to plan their base expansion with Leafy. Even with a new ally, he knows they cannot survive the coming stampede, realizing leveling up the base is their only key to survival. With a new sense of urgency, he begins gathering materials. Working with incredible speed and efficiency across the forest, Anemone watches from above, impressed by his gathering skills, but a quick check of their inventory reveals a grim reality. He admits to her they still do not have enough to level up. explaining how the magic stone builds defenses with more power, but even with her help, their supplies are critically low, and a terrifying monster outbreak is just days away. She agrees to gather more while he searches for another solution. Kamiya laments his lack of early game buffs, so he orders Leafy to open the developer consoles. Surrounded by code, he considers manipulating the game's parameters, but knows changing a live game is incredibly risky. This system he built is far too complex, with multiple eyes running everything in real time. Any bug within its design is instantly corrected, but pushing too far could trigger a catastrophic system failure. Knowing he cannot survive otherwise, he searches for a loophole. When a brilliant idea suddenly strikes him, he asks Leafy to activate instant build mode. This was a powerful test function from his developer days, allowing construction without any resources at all. Leafy confirms the system AI will not flag developer privileges, and she begins searching for an open API to exploit. Leafy finds the access point, explaining she has to dive in, and ignoring Kamiya's warning, she plunges into the system's code. Entering a vast digital landscape of floating data, she quickly locates the API she needs to exploit, beginning to manipulate the data streams directly. But a dark security program suddenly materializes, catching the small fairy completely by surprise. This system's defense mechanism looms over her, launching a sudden, violent attack to purge the intruder. As the maintenance AI identifies her as a bug, its deletion sequence moves with terrifying speed. Yet just in time, she successfully breaks through the firewall. This hostile AI begins to glitch and corrupt, shattering into countless digital fragments, as Leafy is shot back out of the console victorious. Leafy reappears shaken, explaining the maintenance AI nearly destroyed her, and Kamiya realizes the system saw her as a bug to be purged. This thought of elimination leaves her absolutely terrified, so he asks her to try again, but safely from the console this time. She focuses her attention, peering back into the system's code, only to find the maintenance AI has multiplied, blocking their path. Kamiya understands the system has already adapted to their intrusion. He reassures her, apologizing for putting her in such danger, and touched by his concern, she calls him creator. With the exploit successful, the instant build mode prompt appears, just as Anemone returns to see something impossible happening. This entire base begins to glow with digital energy. Walls and fortifications constructing themselves from pure light, transforming their small shed into a massive compound in seconds. Kamiya now stands proudly in their newly upgraded fortress, with their base now at level 3. Anemone marvels at the magic stone's incredible power, as Kamiya offers her a choice of the new cabins. He urges her to decide quickly, sparking her curiosity. Suddenly, a massive pillar of light slams into their camp, its brilliant energy shocking the hunter to her core. She stares in disbelief at the impossible sight, while Kamiya calmly explains the cabins will soon be claimed. From the blinding light, a strange energy pulses, revealing a crowd of people materializing out of thin air. These new arrivals have been teleported directly to their base, their system tags identifying them as simple villagers. Anemone's hand immediately goes to her dagger, her instincts on high alert, as the confused villagers turn to Kamiya for answers. He raises a hand to greet them, trying to control the sudden chaos. A young villager angrily confronts him, backed by a wary crowd, but Kamiya remains completely unfazed by their aggressive stance. Introducing himself, he explains he has been here for days, and warns them the base is surrounded by monsters that attack nightly, asking for their cooperation to survive the coming threat. This crowd is frozen with fear and hesitation, until an older villager named Sylvan steps forward to speak. He asks if Kamiya was also guided here by the magic stone, recognizing its power from old stories about the root ore. But another villager, Waldo, urges the others not to trust him, accusing Kamiya of being a kidnapper who lured them there. As Waldo turns to leave, Kamiya asks where he is going, but the man scoffs, saying he will scout the area himself. He splits the villagers, taking a party with him to explore, leading his faction away from the safety of the base. Kamiya tasks Anemone with protecting those who stayed behind, vowing to personally protect the reckless group that left. He follows them from a distance into the deep woods, calling out a final warning that Waldo's faction ignores. This entire area is a known danger zone swarming with monsters, and a game mechanic traps them here, unable to reach other bases. This farther they stray, the stronger the creatures become, just as the men stumble upon seemingly harmless horned rabbits. Waldo scoffs, asking if these are the so-called monsters, but their cute facade shatters, revealing vicious, red-eyed predators. A hunter bunny lunges with blinding speed, attacking Waldo directly, throwing the unprepared villagers into a state of pure panic. From the trees, Kamiya shouts a strange order, "Close your eyes," and with no other choice, the terrified men quickly obey. This gives him an opening to unleash a cloud of pepper, disabling the creatures. Waldo's scouting party is ambushed by a stone golem, and vicious horned rabbits descend from the sky, sending the terrified villagers scattering in chaos. As Kamiya arrives just in time, ordering a full retreat, leading the survivors back towards the safety of the base. After receiving treatment, the villagers begin to settle in, and soon the entire compound is filled with training recruits. A humbled Waldo now leads the sword drills with fierce resolve, vowing to become strong enough to defeat the monsters himself. From the ramparts, Kamiya quietly observes their progress. while Leafy celebrates their growing number of allies, but his focus is fixed on one particular trainee, a detail that makes Leafy suddenly gasp in realization. She recalls the game's design for early-stage guide characters, realizing that boy is Assel, a special NPC with a hidden purpose. A bloody memory of monster attacks flashes through his mind. He remembers a past failure, a life he could not save, recalling the boy's desperate struggle to survive, knowing even then that the kid was doomed to fall. Now he questions if he can alter this world's cruel fate, and as night falls, the villagers prepare a communal meal. Just then, Waldo's scouting party returns to the base, their leader exhausted and demanding food after a long day. A kind villager offers him a warm meal, then invites Kamiya and his companions to join them. This group accepts, finding a moment of peace amid the chaos, and soon everyone is gathered at the table sharing food. A young swordsman eagerly asks Anemone for her opinion, and she gives him a curt but honest approval, surprising the boy. But he admits that mastering the bow is another challenge entirely. Kamiya recalls the purpose of an NPC named Assel, a boy designed to teach players a harsh lesson about permanent death. In a memory, Waldo playfully teases the young Assel, who insists he must fight the monsters to get stronger. He wants to be a hero and protect everyone like his father, but his mother warns against confusing courage with recklessness. Her words give Kamiya an idea to save the boy's life, a new strategy he considers over his simple meal. At the table, the villagers echo the same warning to Assel. While Kamiya realizes their old lives are truly gone, pulled from his thoughts, he rejoins the conversation. As Sylvan asks for alcohol before the coming battle, declaring he has no intention of dying sober. His grim resolve spreads through the weary group, and Kamiya promises a victory drink if they survive the night. Leafy senses his creator's unease, asking what is wrong. Kamiya watches the villagers, feeling the weight of their survival on his shoulders, but Leafy insists he gave them life, a necessary part of his creation, and he rejects that idea, refusing to be a creator who abandons his people. As dusk settles, the villagers gather in the compound center. Kamiya addresses the crowd, warning of the impending nightly raid. His first order is for non-combatants to stand guard from inside the base, while Anemone is assigned to lead the archers, forming a ranged unit. This remaining fighters are to pair up, taking swords for close combat, and he lays out the formation, placing one pair to defend the bow squad. Waldo is placed on the front line alongside Kamiya's own pair, eager for revenge. This raises a question from the crowd: who will be Kamiya's partner? He chooses Assel, stunning the boy and the other villagers. This boy's mother immediately objects, pleading that he is not ready. Facing her directly, Kamiya acknowledges her concern with calm resolve. Assel's mother worries, knowing the rear guard offers no real safety, and accepts that fighting is the only way for him to get stronger. Kamiya watches them, vowing to protect the boy at all costs. His plan involves using Assel as bait to predict the Eye's attacks, a dangerous gamble he must take to overturn the boy's fate. He reassures the mother but says Assel's own will to fight is key. And hearing this, the boy declares he will fight to be strong like his father, leaving his family with a mix of pride and fear for his decision. Kamiya clenches his fist, steeling himself for the brutal night ahead. Then rallies the villagers, promising they will be the ones to survive. As darkness falls, the forest glows with an ominous red light, revealing hordes of monsters as the quest to survive begins. Kamiya immediately orders Leafy to keep a close watch on Assel, while Anemone commands the archers to fire into the approaching horde, their arrows raining down on the first wave of vicious creatures. This battle begins, arrows raining down on the monster horde. And Kamiya directs the villagers, ordering them to fight in pairs. Though the monster numbers have grown, the villagers hold their ground, their two-man cell tactic effectively breaking enemy coordination. One fighter grows overconfident, finding the battle surprisingly easy, until a powerful creature effortlessly blocks his attack. Its red eye glitches with a strange digital energy. Kamiya watches with concern as the tide begins to turn. This beast roars, preparing a devastating counterattack, while a companion questions the distracted fighter's focus. Below, the base's traps are thinning the monster ranks effectively, with Assel expertly luring creatures into the deadly spike pits. But a grim thought reveals this world is far from forgiving, as a small but vicious monster appears at the perimeter, its eye glowing with the same ominous, adapting intelligence. Kamiya watches in disbelief as the goblins suddenly power up mid-fight. Anemone notices their movements are unnatural. She leaps from the watchtower to join the fray directly. On the ground, the villagers are being overwhelmed, and Leafy can only watch in growing fear. She screams a warning to Assel as a monster closes in, but the warning comes too late and he is struck down. Kamiya screams for the boy to get up, his eyes glowing with a sudden burst of power. A precise shot strikes the goblin just in time, revealing Anemone providing cover from a distance. Her arrows find their mark with deadly accuracy. But the hunter realizes the monsters are ignoring her, their focus fixed solely on the panicked villagers. A confident villager scoffs, refusing to lose to a mere goblin, but his overconfidence is shattered as the creature sends him flying. Another goblin with glowing red eyes targets a terrified Assel, who freezes on the ground, unable to draw his sword. A warning is screamed as the monster lunges to attack, and at the last second, Kamiya intercepts the blow meant for the boy. Straining against a force far greater than any normal monsters, he realizes this is a system intervention designed to enforce Assel's fate. This brutal impact sends him reeling, taking the hit for the boy, leaving Assel once again defenseless before the creature. Just then, Anemone crashes in with a powerful kick to its head, standing guard over the stunned boy and the fallen monster. This goblin glares up in shock at its new opponent. While another fighter boasts that humanoid monsters are easy targets, but their attention is drawn to a lone goblin standing ominously apart from the rest. Kamiya shouts orders, telling them to separate the monsters. But on the front lines, Waldo struggles against a powerful goblin. With a furious roar, he drives his blade through the creature's eye. Anemone urges him to press the attack, and he roars in agreement. Nearby, Kamiya orders Assel to aim for the head, but the boy hesitates. Paralyzed by fear as he faces a life-or-death choice, a reminder of his father's strength tightens his grip on the sword. Finding his courage, the boy lunges forward with a desperate cry. Kamiya watches closely, his own attack ready to launch, and in a flash he moves to intercept, striking the creature down himself, sending the monster flying back into the dirt. He offers the shaken boy a simple word of approval, then rallies the others for one final push. This villagers fight on, their formations holding against the horde, each fighter now battling with renewed determination. With a final decisive slash, this last of the monsters finally fall, leaving the survivors to erupt in cheers of victory. A system message confirms their success. The first night cleared. Assel's mother watches with overwhelming relief, pulling her son into a desperate, thankful embrace. From a distance, Kamiya observes the reunion. Knowing he successfully overturned the boy's fated death, this victory fills the villagers with newfound confidence. But a dark thought reveals his hope was naive. Someone else will die. This next day, the villagers stare in awe at the sky as a new system function activates across the entire base. One of them points in disbelief at the source of the power, and Kamiya confirms it is the energy from a magic stone. He explains it is fueled by defeated monsters and gathered items. Kamiya checks the magic stone, seeing their accumulated resources, which can be used to directly strengthen the entire base. This upgrade also boosts the villagers' own potential for growth. A link anemone explains their strength is tied to the compound's power. Assel reminds them that training is still the only way to get stronger, and with new resolve, the villagers head off to begin their drills. A look back shows how Kamiya's build mode helped them overcome early raids, allowing each villager to grow as their coordination improved. Their teamwork proved devastatingly effective against the nightly attacks. Assel's growth was especially remarkable, turning him into a solid fighter. But now, on the 7th day, they face their first stampede. In the quiet before the storm, Kamiya prepares their weapons, while Leafy watches him work with a steady hand. A villager interrupts his focus, announcing that breakfast is ready. But he gives a brief thanks, his mind already on the battle to come. Leafy finds Kamiya sorting weapons, warning a broken blade is fatal, so he carefully marks the faulty swords with red ribbons. Standing, he warns the other villagers about the equipment, instructing them to avoid the marked blades at all costs. A villager calls him for breakfast, but his mind is on the traps, and the woman watches him go, understanding his grim focus. These discarded weapons are a stark reminder of the stakes. As evening falls, the villagers gather for their briefing. Kamiya announces the 7-day stampede is upon them, ordering even those inside the base to be armed and ready. He lays out their strategy, a tight formation around the magic stone, and with a final command to check their gear, they move out. Each fighter steels themselves for the coming battle, their determined march echoing through the compound, taking their positions outside the walls, awaiting the horde. A fellow villager checks on Assel, who confirms he is ready, as Kamiya orders the gates sealed and all fighters to their posts. Inside, the remaining villagers can only huddle together and pray. Assel's mother watches anxiously from behind the wooden barricade, her gaze fixed on the small group of defenders outside. Suddenly, a blade appears at her throat, a threat from within. While outside, the sky darkens with a swarm of monstrous creatures. This ground trembles under the weight of the approaching army, revealing a horde of vicious, red-eyed monsters. A system warning confirms their fears. The stampede has begun. Assel accepts the quest, his eyes burning with new resolve, facing down the monstrous wave charging toward them. But Kamiya rallies his men, reminding them of their preparation. Their small band of fighters stands as the last line of defense, and from the tower, Kamiya gives the order to fire. Anemone orders the archers to stay calm and aim as they trained, loosing a volley of flaming arrows into the goblin horde. These projectiles land among the charging creatures, triggering a massive explosion that rips through their ranks. On the ground, the villagers watch the blast with grim satisfaction, a result of Kamiya's plan to use gunpowder for landmines. But a warning is shouted as more monsters emerge from the trees, another wave of goblins charging straight for the front line. One vicious creature lunges forward with a furious roar, only to be met by the steel of a determined villager, who works in tandem with his partner to cut it down. With furious cries, the fighters clash with the goblin horde, while Anemone directs her archers to cover the rear flank. This true scale of the stampede becomes terrifyingly clear, and as the creatures reach the gate, the order to fire is given. Arrows rain down, striking the charging goblin horde. And one villager freezes as a clawed hand swipes past his face. His companion roars, swinging an axe to intercept the blow. At the barricades, the fighters desperately hold back the swarm, their weapons finding purchase in the vicious creatures. Across the compound, their defenses are working as planned, with spike pits claiming many of the mindless attackers, and the initial wave is being thinned by their combined efforts. Kamiya feels a surge of confidence in their formation. But a sudden tremor shakes the entire battlefield. Anemone looks up, sensing a new presence has arrived. A frantic warning is shouted just as Kamiya turns, and a massive club pulverizes the ground where he just stood. His eyes widen at the sheer power of the attack. As a colossal goblin appears, a true monster of a boss. A system alert reveals a goblin lord is buffing the horde, its powerful roar echoing across the entire battlefield, instantly energizing the smaller goblins with new ferocity. This villager's weapons now struggle against the onslaught, their foes suddenly empowered beyond all expectation. Anemone realizes their defenses are about to crumble. Watching her archers fight a losing battle from the walls, a hulking goblin leaps directly toward their watchtower, and Kamiya can only shout a desperate warning. His archers are sent flying as the structure is hit, splintering under the force of a devastating blow. Both Anemone and her companion crash hard onto the ground. Her leg badly injured in the brutal fall. A call goes out to get the wounded inside immediately, but Anemone and her allies stand ready, refusing to retreat. Anemone screams after him, demanding to know where he is going. As Kamiya prepares to face the towering goblin boss alone, this creature's glowing red eyes radiate pure malice, a challenge he meets with a grim, determined smile. Elsewhere, Assel's mother runs with a replacement sword, her face a mask of desperate resolve. Suddenly, a monster appears right behind her, lunging forward with claws outstretched to strike, but an arrow pierces its skull at the last second. Anemone furiously confronts her, demanding an explanation, but the mother insists Assel's sword is about to break. On the front lines, the boy's blade cracks mid-swing. Anemone orders her back, but the woman refuses to stop. Another monster attacks, forcing Anemone to provide cover fire, and she resolves to hold the line here herself. A villager carves a path through the horde, creating an opening, and another fighter offers a quick thanks, her own blade ready. From the wall, Anemone watches the endless tide of goblins, her expression revealing the grim reality of their situation. On the ground, the fighters desperately hold the line, but one of them cries out, taking a vicious blow. A nearby fighter notices the goblins are suddenly much stronger, his eyes drawn to the source of this sudden power-up. A hulking goblin boss now looms over the battlefield. Its sheer size leaves the defenders speechless. A goblin lord that should not even be here yet. Realizing the immediate danger, they call to help the front line, as the beast raises its massive club to crush them all, but Kamiya's eyes lock onto the impending attack, and a desperate command to raise shields rings out. This boss's club smashes down indiscriminately, and Kamiya realizes it is even killing its own allies. He barely dodges another devastating swing, helping an injured villager whose health is critical. A comrade shouts his name, rushing to his side, as the small group struggles to regroup from the assault. Another warning is cried out as the monster raises its club again, bringing the weapon down with overwhelming force. But Kamiya stands ready to meet the blow head-on, his eyes glowing with a sudden surge of power. His sword meets the club in a blinding flash of light, creating a powerful shockwave that pushes him back. This other fighters can only stare in disbelief, while the goblin boss itself seems stunned by his defense. Against all odds, Kamiya holds the line alone. Kamiya grins, having pulled off a perfectly timed parry, enraging the colossal goblin lord towering above them. His allies quickly move to intercept the smaller goblins, telling him to focus his efforts on the main boss. They know this defensive line will not last for long. With that opening, Kamiya charges forward with new resolve, sprinting directly toward the monster's massive legs. This beast brings its weapon down in a furious arc, but he manages to block the devastating strike again. He is being pushed back, realizing he needs to change tactics, when a small fairy suddenly appears, calling him Creator, a sight that catches him completely off guard. He orders the fairy Leafy to open the RNG console, and a glowing blue cube materializes in his hand. A system window reveals the AI balancing is now active. This fairy suddenly recalls a specific system detail, a hidden bug that can guarantee critical hits. These strikes ignore defense and deal double damage, but they are usually based on random probability, a system the creator intentionally left with a flaw. After 15 consecutive parries, the AI overcorrects, temporarily making every single attack a critical hit. Its creator knew this exploit was possible. And now Kamiya plans to use it against the Goblin Lord. He must perfectly parry 15 attacks in a row, standing alone against the colossal beast, while his allies are overwhelmed by the horde. With no time left, he prepares for the impossible feat. As the monster's club comes crashing down, his blade deflects the first blow perfectly. Kamiya parries a second devastating blow. As the enraged beast swings down again, sparks flying as he barely holds on. He deflects a third crushing attack. While his comrades watch in stunned silence, a fourth block buying him time as a plan forms in his mind. But the distraction proves costly for his ally, and Assel's mother screams his name in terror. Back on the front line, Kamiya parries a flurry of blows, reaching the 8th strike. This monster's frustration grows with each failed attack, and he deflects the 9th swing with perfect timing, finally knocking the giant beast off balance. With the 10th parry, his opening appears, leaving the Goblin Lord completely exposed. He moves in, confident his plan will succeed. This fighters struggle against a two-headed beast, while Assel takes down a boar-like goblin, but another winged monster charges their position. On another front, Kamiya parries a heavy strike, a confident smirk playing on his lips. Suddenly, a goblin lunges from his blind spot, and a desperate warning cries out from nearby, but Assel is there, blocking the fatal blow, his own expression a mask of confusion. As he holds the creature at bay, His mother screams his name in pure terror, yet the boy seems to find new resolve, letting out a battle cry as he carves through the horde. Just then, the Goblin Lord looms over Kamiya, raising its club, only for its attack to meet a blinding pillar of light. His 15th parry lands, triggering the system exploit, and Kamiya promises this will all be over in an instant. He unleashes a blinding flurry of guaranteed criticals, tearing into a beast-like monster before him. Each swing lands with devastating, defense-ignoring force, culminating in a final decisive X-shaped slash. With the beast defeated, Kamiya stands alone on the field, but his assault is not over, unleashing another powerful strike. This remaining goblins can only stare in utter shock as a colossal shadow blade descends from the sky, wiping out the horde in one terrifying instant. Exhausted, Kamiya confirms his narrow victory to the fairy. While Assel can hardly believe they have actually won, and his mother watches with a look of quiet relief, until a menacing red eye opens, her face twisting in horror. Assel's mother shoves him out of the way, taking the fatal blow meant for him, and Kamiya curses, realizing the beast was not dead. He unleashes his rage on the remaining monsters. This boy runs to his fallen mother's side, cradling her as she speaks her final words. She urges him to find his father, but he cannot accept it, telling him to live a long life before they meet again. A memory flashes of a promise made long ago. As Assel weeps over her body, his grief erupting in a devastating cry, leaving Kamiya and the fairy to watch in silence. This other survivors can only look on stunned. As the battlefield finally falls quiet, and a system window confirms the quest is complete, a lone grave marks the cost of their recent battle. Kamiya stands before it, his expression heavy with grief. When the fairy Leafy appears, calling out to her creator, she reports no evidence of system tampering despite the Goblin Lord's appearance. Explaining his creator permissions should have made that impossible, but Kamiya simply admits his own arrogance. He clenches his fist, having believed he knew this world inside and out, yet his overconfidence led to someone's needless death. Leafy insists he saved everyone else, that the NPCs are alive because of him. But he sees it differently. He is the one driving them to suffer. Overwhelmed by guilt, his face darkens with despair. He walks away from the grave, asking to be left alone. Suddenly, Anemone's voice cuts through his thoughts. She has found him in a field surrounded by white birds, her bow already drawn and aimed with absolute focus. A sudden blast of energy strikes a bird mid-flight, as an arrow lands at the feet of a mysterious pair. This man reflects on the harsh realities of survival. While the woman explains death is just a part of their world, he seems unwilling to accept this grim philosophy. But she urges him to follow, promising to show him something important. They arrive at a training ground where villagers hone their skills, leaving the man to wonder what exactly she is trying to prove. She directs his gaze toward a specific trainee, and his eyes lock onto the scene before him. A young boy trains relentlessly with his sword, sparring with a ferocity that seems almost desperate. This woman reveals a shocking truth. The boy attended a funeral this morning, having promised his late mother he would become stronger for her, and now his partner begs him to rest, but the boy's grief fuels his training. Assel rushes toward the grieving Kamiya, calling out his name, grabbing him by the collar with fierce determination. He begs for a sparring match, catching Kamiya completely off guard, vowing to get stronger in his late mother's honor. Seeing the boy's resolve, Kamiya finally understands and picks up a sword, promising not to hold back. Assel's face lights up as he eagerly accepts the challenge. Their silhouettes clashing on the hill as a thought strikes Kamiya. Blades meet in a shower of sparks, a true test of will, and he realizes they are living stronger than he ever imagined. This new understanding gives him a renewed sense of purpose. Meanwhile, two travelers journey through a lush, unfamiliar forest, this younger one asking where their path has led them. He holds a crudely made arrow addressing his master, who reveals it was crafted with a magic stone, a shocking discovery. A traveler's hand tightens, believing they finally have a lead, as two dwarves journey down a forest path toward a village. Inside, a woman sets out fresh bread for the day, while Kamiya watches the townspeople with a heavy expression. Leafy suddenly appears, confirming the newcomers have arrived. This villagers turn in surprise as the strangers approach the gate, where a bearded dwarf named Dorn demands to see their leader. His young apprentice asks him to be a bit more gentle, a craftswoman named Ginger looking quite flustered. Stepping forward, Kamiya claims that he is the one in charge, causing the dwarf craftsman to squint, sizing him up. Ginger quickly gets to the point, asking about a magic stone, explaining they are traveling in search of rare materials. A villager kindly invites them to discuss it over dinner, and the young dwarf's face lights up with gratitude. The survivors share a meal, a brief moment of calm after the storm. A young craftsman named Ginger offers thanks, seated with a dwarf companion, and Kamiya recognizes them as master craftsmen vital for the village's future. He brings up the magic stone, immediately catching their attention. Their sudden excitement is almost comical. Ginger reveals they are searching for the legendary Philosopher's Stone, a name that stops Kamiya in his tracks. It is a mythical artifact rumored to create the ultimate weapons, but Ginger admits no dwarf has ever actually seen it. Their only clue is that its creation requires immense magic power, but Kamiya knows the secret. It is a reward for a special player quest, making it completely unobtainable for the world's inhabitants. He realizes their legend is just a story based on a game mechanic, and now they are asking to see his magic stone for their research. With a smile, he agrees, delighting the young craftsman. This villager makes a request help them forge weapons to survive nightly monster attacks, and his new companions readily agree, calling it an easy task. In exchange, he promises to show them a magic stone after their meal. This group shares a meal, a brief moment of peace. With Leafy watching, Kamiya plots how to convince the pair to join him. After eating, they are led to a secluded workshop, where the two present him with a large, glowing blue crystal. To their shock, he instantly declares it is not what he is looking for, explaining it is a conduit for magic, more like a gate than a material. Impressed by his insight, the bearded man confirms the stone is an interface. Since it is not a clue to the philosopher's stone, he announces their departure for tomorrow. Kamiya quickly offers them an unused workshop to entice them to stay, yet his generous offer is politely declined. Undeterred, he asks them to at least handle the weapons for the coming raid, and the villager agrees, showing them to the workshop to begin their work. Leafy worries the dwarves will leave, but Kamiya knows Dorn is too focused on his quest. His attention shifts to Ginger, who he suspects wants to see her work's true impact. A feeling he recognizes from when he first started creating games. He wagers that if she feels she can grow here, she will choose to stay. As night falls, a blood-red moon signals the promised attack. This village erupts into chaos as goblins swarm the defenses, and from a watchtower, Ginger and Dorn see the raid is terrifyingly real. Newly forged arrows strike down monsters with lethal force, prompting Ginger to note their improved power, already planning more upgrades. Below them, the desperate defense of the village rages on. Villagers fight with renewed strength, their weapons cutting true. With a craftsman's eye, Ginger analyzes a warrior's mismatched sword, realizing simple adjustments could make their swings far more effective. Her master Dorn listens to her insights, a thoughtful look on his face, while the brutal clash for survival continues on the ground. During the raid, Kamiya knows his words alone will not convince Ginger. So he lets his actions do the talking, felling a beast with one strike. Leafy watches the young dwarf from afar, noting that she seems thoroughly impressed by the display. By morning, the weapons they have crafted are ready for the villagers. Inside the workshop, Ginger and her master prepare to leave as promised, when a villager calls out to thank them for their help. Soon, others gather to praise her incredible skill, waving a fond farewell to the young artisan. Her eyes then fall upon Assel and another villager training with their improved blades, both of them marveling at the weapon's sharpness and balance. One man even enthusiastically begs her to stay and forge him a custom sword, but another villager sadly confirms they are leaving today. As the townsfolk wish them well, Ginger watches them with a conflicted gaze, a sudden realization stopping her in her tracks. This next morning, Ginger emerges from the workshop, ready to depart. Kamiya is already waiting for her. She explains her master is singularly focused on his quest, prompting Kamiya to ask what she truly wants for herself. Sensing her interests lie beyond just the philosopher's stone, he lays out the village's harsh reality, constant attacks and few resources, explaining that her skills are vital for their very survival. Reaching out a hand, he asks her directly to join them, pleading for her to stay and help them rebuild. His words clearly give her pause. Yet she turns to a villager, thanking them as if to leave, and her master calls down, telling her it is time to go. Taking a deep breath, Ginger makes her choice, turning to her master with sudden resolve, and declares that she wants to stay in the village. Dorn the dwarf questions his apprentice's resolve, as Ginger declares her intention to forge a single weapon, putting her skills on display for her master to judge. He refuses to let an unproven craftsman wander the world. A challenge she accepts with a determined cry. Inside the workshop, her hammer strikes with fiery purpose, and Kamiya offers to help with the magic stone's power, but she refuses, insisting this test is about her own strength. Her resolve earns his quiet understanding. He watches her work, recognizing a familiar drive. Later, the finished blade is presented to Dorn for inspection, while Ginger nervously awaits his final judgment. His reflection stares back from the polished steel, a sword for humans. She explains this is not her ultimate goal, as Dorn imparts a master's wisdom about true craftsmanship. Dorn says her gaze reveals her true desire, contrasting his own path with the fire inside her, and he urges her to follow that flame. With hope in her eyes, she asks if she passed his test, but Dorn only tells Kamiya to take care of her. Ginger watches him depart, her expression full of resolve. While Kamiya and Leafy share a victorious smile, this master dwarf walks off alone into the sunset. In his place, Ginger bows, officially joining their cause. Kamiya watches until his silhouette vanishes from the road, and Leafy immediately starts planning their next move. It is time to level up the entire base. On day 9, the villagers look to the sky in astonishment, as a holographic blueprint materializes above them, revealing Kamiya's grand design for their new home. A new chapter begins for Ginger in her chosen home, when a system notification announces the village has reached level 8. Ginger rushes over, calling Kamiya's name with pure excitement. She is amazed by the magic stone's power upgrading the workshop. This entire building now glows with newfound potential, and Kamiya gives her free rein to use it however she wishes. Overjoyed, she is already planning her next creations. Just then, Leafy flies over to speak with her creator, confirming that Ginger's arrival is a game changer for their defenses. This stone's level up also increases their resource capacity, revealing a new goal, gathering enough mana to summon an ally. With their new craftsmen, the village steadily overcomes the nightly raids, their gear and armor now far superior to before. This new strength eases the burden on the frontline fighters, while Ginger takes on a support role, ensuring supplies are always ready. A timer appears only 3 days until the next monster wave, and Kamiya knows they must strengthen their forces fast. On day 11, he gathers the villagers for a new plan, presenting them with strange, lumpy dirt figures. A young artisan excitedly reveals they are magical golems, support units that can fight by mirroring their master's class. A swordsman's golem wields a sword and archers uses a bow, a creation only possible thanks to the village's magic stone. This villagers ask if they can truly fight, learning they can even handle chores like cleaning and laundry. Their skepticism quickly turns to excitement over their new allies, but suddenly the golem's eyes begin to glow, reacting to another source of magic nearby. A lookout shouts a warning someone is approaching the village, and a mysterious cloaked figure appears on the horizon. A new challenger suddenly lands before the startled villagers. Revealing herself to be a confident, blonde-haired elf, her name is Urisha and she challenges their leader to a duel. This sudden demand leaves everyone completely stunned, but Kamiya realizes her appearance fulfills a specific condition. This elf stands proudly awaiting an answer to her challenge when our boy calmly declares that he is the one in charge. She sizes him up, his reflection caught in her eye, and states the terms: if he loses, she takes command. Urisha promises to bring prosperity to the village under her rule, prompting Kamiya to ask what happens if she is the one who falls. She scoffs at the idea but agrees to do whatever he wants if she loses, sealing the pact with a vow she will never break. Leafy watches with a worried expression as the deal is struck, and with the terms set, Kamiya draws his sword for the duel. A system quest appears, a duel with the mage. These two combatants take their positions in a wide clearing. As villagers gather on balconies and fences to watch, Ginger recognizes the challenger is from a reclusive elven clan, while another man laughs, declaring the strongest will rule, a festive mood spreading through the crowd of onlookers. With a confident smirk, Urisha points her wand, ready to begin, but Kamiya sets his own signal. The duel starts when a coin hits the ground. He flicks the coin high into the air, and as it tumbles down, he readies his sword and shield. Urisha does not wait, summoning a powerful wind spell, unleashing a vortex of cutting magic directly at him. This magical blast slams into Kamiya's position, shocking the villagers with her incredible power. One woman cannot even track the attack, calling the elf a real threat. Urisha admits he is sharp, but her eyes gleam with power, unleashing a torrent of wind magic to test his endurance. Kamiya moves like a blur, deflecting every single projectile, his mind already classifying her as a killer-class threat. He recalls how her overwhelming magic crushes unprepared players, making her an ally most fail to ever recruit. But now her opponent is someone who knows the strategy, a fact that clearly rattles the confident elf. With his shield raised, Kamiya easily blocks her basic attack, leaving Urisha stunned by his casual dismissal of her power. This village leader even explains its weakness against Ginger's steel, which only fuels her rage as she lunges forward, vaulting into the air for a devastating overhead strike. While our boy calmly braces for the incoming blow, and she brings her staff down with furious force, Urisha leaps high into the air, conjuring a blade of wind. This villagers can only stare in disbelief at her aerial assault, as she summons a powerful vortex of elemental energy. This advanced wind magic forms a deadly tornado above Kamiya, and she taunts him, ready to teach him a lesson in power. With a crazed smile, the elf unleashes her devastating attack, diving down to deliver the final blow, but her eyes suddenly widen in pure shock. Looking down, she sees an object flying right at her, forcing her to desperately try and block the projectile. Down below, Kamiya has thrown a simple stone with blinding speed, which shatters her wand and disrupts her spell completely. Her magic broken, she plummets helplessly from the sky, crashing to the ground in utter confusion, only to see a barrage of small white orbs raining down on her. This duel ends with his blade at her throat. Kamiya explains the area's weak magic sealed her fate, and with that he declares the duel his win. She's humiliated, losing to a non-magic user. With a sinister grin, he asks if she will keep her promise, a question that sends her into a panic. Her magical staff suddenly shatters into pieces, prompting her to demand he clean up his own mess. Kamiya watches her storm off, completely unfazed, while the villagers and golems clear the training field. This townsfolk are already getting along with their new allies, even giving their newest unamused member a warm welcome. Leafy celebrates their new mage, and Kamiya agrees with a smile, as Urisha declares they will test a new strategy tonight. She leads her new golem squad into the forest depths. Kamiya follows Urisha into the woods, lost in thought. As his fairy companion Leafy appears, awaiting his command, he asks about the real world, but she has no answers here. A system check reveals only one change: a new game master. Wondering about his impact on this world, he pushes the thought aside, setting a new goal to reach level 100 as fast as possible. Reaching that level will grant him access to a mysterious tower, a new addition from the game's latest update. Inside lies the power he needs to surpass his current limits. But his thoughts are suddenly interrupted. An impatient Urisha demands to know their destination, wanting to find monsters before the night raid begins. Kamiya explains this is a test run for her and the golems, asking just how skilled she truly is with magic, and she boasts of her mastery over wind and other elements. Leafy eagerly asks about Urisha's usable magic, and the elf admits her power is severely limited here. She blames the weak magic stone for her poor performance. But Kamiya's lecture about her fatal error still stings. With a scowl, she reluctantly accepts his point. Just as the young artisan asks about the new plan, Kamiya confirms he will pair her with the golems for a tactical advantage. Envisioning her as a master leading magical subordinates, he instructs her to imbue them with her power, and Urisha places her hand on the first golem. A surge of green energy flows from her into the stone body. While Kamiya and the artisan watch the process unfold, this boy explains she can command them with her thoughts, as Urisha takes her place before her new squad. Closing her eyes to issue her first mental orders, Urisha floats into the air, leading her new golem squad, their stone feet thudding against the forest floor. Following her lead, they venture into the dark woods, where she orders them to take down their first targets. Ahead, a group of seemingly harmless horned rabbits appear. With a cruel smile, she declares monsters have no place here. But the cute creatures suddenly reveal their monstrous true forms, a ravenous horde now surrounding the entire party. Unfazed, Urisha unleashes a powerful wind spell, sending magical blades slicing through the monster ranks. This beasts roar in fury, preparing to swarm them, but the elf declares the fight is far from over as even more of the creatures emerge from the tree line. She commands her golem to wipe them out in one go, and it unleashes a devastating explosion of magical energy. A powerful spell decimates a pack of horned rabbits, as Urisha effortlessly herds them with her wind magic, floating gracefully through the air to test her skills. She lands before Kamiya with a satisfied smirk, reminding them a golem's power reflects its master's training. One of the villagers sighs, having heard the lecture before. With their training complete, Kamiya declares them ready for a real battle, but elsewhere a fist slams down in pure frustration. A mysterious observer fuming as his plans continue to fail, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. He vows to take matters into his own hands now. Back in the village, Kamiya stands ready, completely unaware of the threat. When a blood-red moon rises, signaling a new quest, survive the night. Their forces assemble along the village walls, ready for the onslaught, and a commander shouts the order to stick to the plan as the enemy approaches. Urisha confidently accepts her role as the key to victory. As a villager shouts a warning from the front lines, a massive horde of goblins swarms the field. This battle begins with a brutal clash of steel, and the monsters' eyes glow with savage fury. Their sheer numbers threaten to overwhelm the defenders, but Kamiya notices they are fighting with advanced tactics, forcing him to order the next phase of their plan. From the watchtower, archers unleash a volley of arrows. A long-range assault designed to shatter the enemy formation. With the horde scattered, Urisha gets her signal, leaping into the air with a powerful spell ready. Her wind magic slices through the goblin ranks, creating an opening for the villagers to charge forward, targeting the weakened left flank of the monster horde. Kamiya holds the front line against the beastly horde, while archers pin down one group with a volley of arrows. From above, Urisha's wind magic tears through their ranks. As the ground squad engages the remaining monsters head-on, this elf revels in the chaos, ready for another devastating blast, unleashing a storm of magical blades across the battlefield. Our boy explains their strategy is to divide and conquer, and Urisha's magic erupts, sending enemies flying into the air. With the grunts cleared, Kamiya orders the team to target the leaders. A Command 1 brawny villager already follows with brutal force. He eagerly claims the next monster for himself. Just as a massive golem foot descends upon the field, but Urisha tells him to get out of her way. Her wind spell slices past him, clearing his path instantly, leaving the villager stunned by her overwhelming power. Urisha's wind magic slices through the first wave of monsters, but a villager suddenly pulls Kamiya back from the front line. As the commander demands to know what he is doing, Urisha shouts that he is blocking her attack path. Just as a desperate warning comes too late for the commander, a goblin ambushes him with a brutal punch to the face, sending him stumbling right into a hidden spike trap. Kamiya orders the injured man to stay put before leaping into the fray with a swift counterattack. This battlefield is filled with ravenous, snarling beasts, while another villager takes on a goblin with his bare fists. He roars in triumph as his attack connects, sending the creature flying with a powerful blow. Suddenly, a much larger monster looms over him, and it crashes down from above, ready to crush the warrior. A horde of beast-like monsters charges under the blood-red sky, and Kamiya rallies his troops to press the attack. Magical slashes tear through the enemy ranks, their forces quickly overwhelming the monster horde. With the first night cleared, a villager scolds Urisha for her recklessness, but Kamiya recognizes her immense value in battle. This elf fires back, arguing heatedly with her new allies, prompting Kamiya to focus on strengthening their base defenses. New magical barbed wire fences materialize around the perimeter, followed by reinforced stone walls glowing with power. Even the main building receives a significant upgrade. Their base successfully reaches level 10, leaving the villagers stunned by its sudden expansion. Urisha admits the magic stones are surprisingly decent, while Kamiya surveys their newly fortified home. Kamiya acknowledges they barely leveled up in time, a feat achieved by the whole village gathering resources. They hunted monsters and collected magic stones relentlessly, with Urisha's power proving essential to their speed. And now at level 10, new people are set to arrive. This fairy quickly orders everyone to clear the area, just as a brilliant light swirls across the sky, descending into the village as a massive energy pillar. Its residents can only stare in awe and confusion. As new figures begin to step out from the light, an entire crowd of people suddenly materializes. Looking around, completely lost and disoriented, Kamiya steps forward to address the bewildered newcomers, preparing to explain their strange new circumstances. A new chapter beginning for their fortified village. A newcomer shouts in protest, forced to fight monsters, and the new arrivals demand to be sent back home, but a man in black coldly informs them there is no return. As another tries to reason with the crowd, urging calm, accusations fly as they suspect their hosts are the kidnappers. While the brawny villager recognizes this familiar denial, he steps forward to stop the escalating argument, but the dissenter angrily tells him to back off. His patience wears thin, a dark aura flaring around him. With a single punch, he sends the troublemakers flying. This other new arrivals watch in stunned, fearful silence. As Kamiya notes they need more people for the coming raids, a red-haired woman observes the brutal display of power, while our boy admits their future looks bleak. Despite the tension, villagers offer supplies to the newcomers. This village artisans work diligently in their shop, while children play freely, enjoying a moment of peace. On the training grounds, Kamiya assembles the villagers, warning them that the monsters will show no mercy, and urging them to prepare for a fight to the death. His recruits listen with grim determination, before they all gather in the Great Hall for a meal. Laughter and conversation fill the room, a brief respite from war. But Kamiya sits quietly, observing his allies. Around them, the villagers drink and make merry, trying to forget the battle that looms ahead. Urisha scoffs at a villager's friendly gesture, her cold demeanor separating her from the group. Kamiya watches on, burdened by uncertainty, knowing tonight's fight will be their harshest yet. Day 12 begins as another monster horde approaches the village. A young villager freezes in terror on the front lines, earning a harsh rebuke from his commander to fight properly. Spurred into action, the boy lets out a desperate battle cry and lands his first kill against a goblin-like foe. Kamiya praises his courage, reminding him to stay aware. While observing the rest of the villagers holding their ground, he explains their strategy of integrating new recruits carefully. Knowing too many inexperienced fighters could break their formation. Inside the walls, their defenses are ready for the assault, but a small fairy appears before a group of idle villagers. A leader demands to know why they are not in position, and the fairy watches intently as they finally move out. From the watchtower, the order is given to fire, unleashing a volley of arrows on the unsuspecting monsters below. Urisha leaps into the air, preparing a powerful spell. And her wind blades carve through the enemy horde, a cruel smile spreading as she mocks their weakness. Meanwhile, Kamiya leads the ground troops into the fray, where one villager clashes swords with a goblin, his comrades fighting fiercely right beside him. From above, Urisha calls out her next target, her support giving Kamiya the confidence to push forward. Another wave of her magic decimates the monster ranks, but the elf is still eager for more destruction. She dives in for one last devastating assault, until a sudden flash of light catches her eye. An enemy leader roars in disbelief, caught off guard, just as Urisha is ensnared in a swirling vortex of energy. This battlefield erupts in a blinding explosion. A fallen monster leaves behind a single magic stone, but another wave of enemies prepares an ambush from the high ground. Urisha spots the trap, unimpressed by their crude tactics. Kamiya shouts in disbelief as a second wave descends upon them. Realizing Urisha is vulnerable in close combat, he leads the charge to reinforce their overwhelmed allies. But these new monsters are far more aggressive, their sudden ferocity catching the defenders completely off guard. A villager screams as a blade sinks deep into his shoulder, and Kamiya knows the new recruits cannot hold the line. Even Urisha is baffled, as monsters should not be using tactics yet. This injured man falters, his will to fight collapsing completely. He screams in terror and abandons his post, fleeing for his life, his panic spreading to another recruit who also turns to run. As Kamiya realizes the entire defensive line is about to break, from the walls a villager watches in disbelief as two newcomers fight alone outside the gates. They are terrified, completely outmatched by the horde, but Kamiya arrives on the ramparts just in time. Down below, Urisha unleashes a whirlwind of blades, while another warrior cleaves a monster in two. This elf can only stare, shocked by the sudden turn, when the fairy reports that newcomers have deserted. Kamiya seethes with rage at their betrayal, leaving his loyal fighters to hold the line. Urisha struggles, surrounded by enemies on all sides, forcing the fairy to activate her combat AI. With grim resolve, Kamiya vows to end this quickly, his attack carving a path through the battlefield. And he screams for his allies to regroup on him. A panicked commander orders his men to fall back to his position, and the young warrior shouts that they have to hurry, their forces scrambling to regroup on the chaotic battlefield. In the chaos, Kamiya carves a path through the goblin horde, his blade cleaving through a monster's skull. This commander warns that their defensive line is about to collapse, prompting the young warrior to ask about a power boost. But Kamiya explains such power comes at a great physical cost. They have no choice, as holding this position is their only path to victory, and the brawny villager insists they take the risk. Relenting, Kamiya tells them to turn around, activating a device, and a system window for combat AI selection appears before him. He reveals his developer mode lets him upgrade their combat AI, but warns that the overload could damage their minds or even kill them. A dangerous double-edged sword he is about to unleash. With no other choice, Kamiya selects the Exceed AI, a surge of power engulfing his loyal fighters. This young warrior gasps, overflowing with new strength, but Kamiya warns the boost is temporary, urging them toward Urisha. His eyes glow with newfound confidence and speed, and to his enhanced senses, the charging monsters seem to crawl, letting his allies carve through the horde with ease. Meanwhile, Urisha is still fighting for her life, completely surrounded and on the verge of being overwhelmed. Her magic falters as the enemy closes in, realizing she cannot cast her next spell in time. As a goblin lunges, its jaws wide open, but a projectile pierces its skull at the last second. Kamiya arrives just in time, cutting down her attacker, and he calls out, checking if she is all right. Urisha appears above the fray, mockingly offering her aid. While the young warrior continues to fight with desperate fury, this brawny villager scoffs at her arrogance, just as a sharp pain rips through another enhanced fighter, his comrade watching in horror as the power-up's backlash hits. This villager stumbles, coughing up blood from the immense strain, and Urisha coldly reminds them this is the price they pay. With time running short, they resolve to strike the goblin leader, forming a small assault team for a direct charge. Urisha begins chanting, gathering a powerful wind spell, her magic carving a path through the monster horde below. This devastating attack rips through the enemy lines, revealing the goblin commander and his elite guards. With a fierce battle cry, the brawny villager leads the assault. As a massive champion steps forward to block their path, his eyes glow with newfound power. This brawny villager offers himself as a launch pad, driving his blade deep into a monster's foot. Launching the young warrior into a deadly aerial assault, their combined strength turning the tide of battle. As night falls, the survivors tend to their wounded. Inside, the brawny villager groans, regretting his reckless move, while Kamiya checks on the exhausted young warrior, and the fairy reports her failure to stop the deserters. Kamiya knows the forest will claim them soon enough, leaving them only 2 days to prepare for the next horde. Meanwhile, the deserters press onward through the woods, confident their supplies will see them to safety. Unseen from above, a cloaked observer watches their every move, its monstrous grin promising a grim fate for the traitors. This deserters' abandoned supplies are all that remain, as Kamiya realizes they had planned their escape all along. By morning, the survivors regroup and prepare their defenses, holding a proper meeting with the remaining newcomers. Old and new members finally begin to bond, finding a shared understanding before the next battle. As night falls on day 13, another horde attacks, but this time the defenders are fully prepared for the assault. They have even developed new tactics for Urisha, who now unleashes golem-like magic on the enemy ranks. She smirks, easily countering their direct charge, deciding to whittle them down from the outside, her new abilities carving through the confused monsters. With the enemy disoriented, victory comes much easier than before, but Kamiya notes with dread how quickly the monsters are learning. On day 14, a system warning announces a stampede. A tremor running through the ground signals its approach. Panicked wildlife flees from the coming terror, revealing the massive horde charging through the trees. Their ranks are more organized and numerous than ever, even bringing siege weapons to bear against the walls. A massive champion leading the devastating charge. This monster's war cries echo as they surge forward, and Kamiya puts his faith in Urisha's new strategy. She admits fire is not her specialty but prepares a powerful spell, unleashing a volley of flaming arrows upon the horde. This attack creates a wall of fire, halting their advance before erupting in a massive, fiery explosion. With the enemy line broken, Kamiya leads the countercharge. But the horde's vanguard pushes through the flames undeterred. A dark blade of energy descends upon the battlefield, carving a path through the advancing monster horde. This young warrior vows to hold the right flank, ignoring a nearby casualty, while from the walls an archer commands a continuous volley of arrows. Her barrage rains down, thinning the enemy's ranks, but a new wave of beast-like monsters charges forward relentlessly. With a fierce cry, the warrior cuts down another foe. This defender's desperately holding their formation against the swarm. From below, the monsters see a lone spotter on the wall, his face a mask of shock and alarm. He screams a warning that the enemy has reached the fortifications, drawing the fairy's worried attention to the new threat. Kamiya observes from above, pleased their initial strategy worked, now waiting to see how the monsters will adapt to their defense. Suddenly, a lookout spots another group approaching from the forest. This battered deserters finally stumble back to the village gates, and a guard on the wall reluctantly agrees to let them in. But a defender rushes them inside, warning of the ongoing battle. In that moment, he notices something terribly wrong. One of the returnees contorts, transforming into a monster. This fairy can only stare in utter disbelief, as the other defenders freeze, confused by the sudden change. From above, she sees more of the deserters collapsing, their bodies twisting as they lose their humanity. Kamiya stands over the fallen, witnessing the horrific sight, and panic spreads through the ranks as everyone backs away. Suddenly, the fairy understands the horrifying truth. These deserters are turning into the undead. A villager calls out, not grasping the immediate danger, and the new monster lunges at him without hesitation. Suddenly, a villager turns on his own, his blade glowing with dark energy. And the fairy panics, knowing this phenomenon should not be happening yet. With Kamiya on the front lines, she has to warn him immediately. She frantically searches her system menus for a way to connect, finding a direct communication link she hopes will work. Just then, an unfamiliar interface appears in Kamiya's vision, revealing an incoming voice call from his fairy, Leafy. a feature he'd completely ignored until this very moment. He quickly accepts the urgent call. As her voice rings out with a terrifying warning about the undead, this deserters have returned as zombies attacking the base. While fending off a monster, he cannot believe they are already inside. Since this dark magic is a high-level threat, he knows they have not even encountered an enemy mage yet, just as a blast of green energy erupts in the distance. Urisha unleashes a powerful wind spell, but the shielded vanguard holds its ground. Annoyed, she finds their defense surprisingly effective, forcing her and the young warrior into close combat. Suddenly, a winged beast ambushes her from above, sending her reeling from the unexpected blow. At the same time, monsters approach with a massive siege ladder. This red-haired archer spots the new danger immediately and leaps from her post to intercept the threat. She races along the wall toward the approaching siege weapon, drawing her bow to take a decisive shot. Her arrow strikes one of the undead deserters mid-attack. A perfect headshot that makes it stumble, but the creature roars, completely unfazed by the wound. She stares in horror, realizing her attacks are useless. Goblins haul a massive siege ladder toward the walls, while from above, Urisha watches the brawny villager hold the line. She snarls, preparing another devastating golem attack, her magic obliterating the enemy's siege equipment. Kamiya realizes this is no mere stampede, as the goblin leader watches from a safe distance. With their siege engine destroyed, the monsters resort to a direct assault, and Urisha's golems provide crucial aerial support. On the ground, the young warrior and the brawny villager fight back to back, but a villager cries out in terror as goblins scale the walls. Leafy desperately rallies the remaining defenders for the breach. These defenders are being pushed back, their lines on the verge of collapse, leaving Kamiya to desperately search for a way to turn the tide.